Today on StampTV, I'm going to show you an elegant card project featuring the brand new Here Comes the Sun StampTV kit. This card features a technique that creates a 3D look from solid stamped flowers. Let me show you the tools and products you need to make this card project. First, you're going to need some stamps, and the stamps that I'm using are from the Flower Builders stamp set. I'm using the solid bloom, the leaves, and I'm also using this particular greeting that says, "Congratulations for completing another trip around the sun." Then you're going to need some ink, and I'm using the Gina K Designs Black Onyx ink along with our Turquoise Sea ink. Then you're going to need some ribbon, and I'm using the Gina K Designs Black Organdy ribbon, and this is the 5/8 of an inch. This is included in your StampTV kit. For cardstock, I'm using some of our Turquoise Sea, our white cardstock, and our Black Onyx. I'm also going to use some of the vintage cuts, and this is from the Flower Builder set, so I'm using a couple of the blooms and some of the leaves. Then you're going to need some pop dots, and I'm using both 1/4-inch pop dots and 1/2-inch pop dots. I'm using the Swiss Dot Cuttlebug folder, some cutter bee scissors and adhesive, and then I'm using the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pen in white. I'm also using a Sakura Stardust pen. This is the Clear Star pen. So to begin, I'm going to take this piece of Turquoise Sea cardstock, and I'm going to run it through the Cuttlebug using the Swiss Dot folder. So I'm going to start with an A and a B plate, and then I'm going to line up this folder, this piece of cardstock on this folder. Now, you know I like it to be centered, so it takes me a little extra second there to make sure it is going to be straight, and that looks pretty straight. Another B plate on top, and I'm going to run that through. So this is just a little added texture. You can see all the dots there. It's a little added texture for my flowers that I'm going to stamp onto the vintage cuts. Next, I'm going to stamp 2 of the flowers from the vintage cuts, the Flower Builder set, using some of this Turquoise Sea ink. Now, our ink is very juicy, and these lines are very delicate and very fine. So you want to stamp it, but you don't need to let it sit on the cardstock for too long. The lines will kind of bleed together. And if you use a drier ink, then they won't bleed together at all. But there's one. Sometimes if you stamp off once, it's just such a delicate image that if you have a real juicy ink pad, you are going to feel that effect of the lines kind of running together. Okay, so there we go. So there's my 2 flowers. Now, my next step is to use this white Pitt pen, this Faber-Castell Pitt pen. What I like about this Pitt pen is that it creates a white line, but it's a transparent white. So really what it does is just kind of create a lighter color of whatever color you're working on. So in this case, it's going to create a lighter turquoise color. And I'm going to do just half circles over each of these petals. And you can see this is starting to create quite a bit of dimension, making the flower look very three-dimensional. Just these little half circles, and you don't have to hit them right on. In fact, if they're not all perfect, it's almost a little bit better. It's more natural looking. And keep going around until you get right into the center. And then when you get to the center, rather than trying to do each of those little dots in there, a half circle, just kind of dab on a little bit of white into each of those tiny little holes. There you go. And you can see all of that dimension that's created. And then you would do the same thing on the other one. Now, to create even more dimension, I'm going to take a little Sakura Stardust pen, a little bit of this glitter, and I'm going to dab the glitter just into the darker areas, so kind of where, into like the crevices there, anywhere that there isn't that Pitt pen, and I'm just dotting it on. I'm not coloring, I'm just kind of dabbing it. You can see that. And that's creating lots of shimmer and even more depth on the insides of those flowers because it creates almost a wet, sparkly look. Almost like dew. Morning dew on your flowers in the spring and summer. And it's really fun to do this because it doesn't require any kind of precision coloring or anything like that. It's just little bits of dabs of glitter here and there. Now, if you don't have a Sakura pen, you can use loose glitter. You can do this with a glue pen first, and then you can add some loose glitter. Or if you have the Wink of Stella pen, you can use that. You can also use Stickles glitter glue if you like that. And then again in the center, I'm just dabbing straight up and down like that. And I can see one little spot that I missed with the Pitt pen, so I'm going to add that there. Okay, so now you can probably see a little bit of that shimmer in there. Let's see if we can get some of that. You can see where it's darker, has a little bit of shine. Okay. So now I have one that I already did here, and I put a 1/2 inch pop dot on the back of that. So they're both going to have 1/2 inch pop dots. Now I'm going to take a couple of these little leaf sprigs, and I'm going to stamp those in some grass green ink. One of the things that's really fun about stamping these leaves, because they're so big, once you stamp them, you can cut them apart as 2 separate leaf sprigs, and that gives you different directions that you can place them, and it also kind of doubles your stock too. Okay, so this first one I'm going to stamp, and they're pretty easy to see because even if your clear stamps are stained a little bit like mine are, you can still see through them, and it's pretty easy to nail it right onto the cut. All right, and another one here. Excuse my head if it got in the way. And one more. Okay. So now I have all these little cut pieces ready to be assembled onto my card. But let's create the card base first. What I'm going to do is grab my white card base and the black onyx panel and the white panel. Now, I want to add a greeting to this white panel. So what I'm going to do is position my turquoise piece on top so I know exactly what I have left to stamp on. And I'm going to stamp that greeting down here at the bottom using some of the black onyx ink. So let me just ink this up lightly. And stamp that right down here at the bottom of this piece of cardstock. There we go. Now I'm going to attach this turquoise piece onto the white piece, and you can see there's no border at all. So if you really want to, you could cut a tiny strip and stamp it and try to line them up, but I kind of like doing it this way because I know exactly how to make it the right size by mounting this turquoise piece right on top of this white piece. I know the white piece is cut to the exact size I want it to be. Okay. And now I'm going to add a little bit of black organdy ribbon. Just a nice little strip going across to separate the greeting from the rest of the card. And I'm going to do that using some mono adhesive and just flip it around. Add a little bit of adhesive on both sides. Let's move that over a little. I always like to look at it on the front to make sure it's straight. There we go. So now I have that nice ribbon panel, and that whole panel is going to go onto this black onyx piece and then onto my card base. Now, what you want to do here is you want to kind of lay these flowers out. Here, I'll just attach that. I do have a finished card to show you as well. Okay, and then this whole thing goes onto the card base. Okay. Now you want to lay these out in a way where they kind of go a little bit off of that panel, so it really looks like they're just kind of blooming all over the card. So what I want to do here is I want to do one here, and I'm going to do one kind of coming down onto the ribbon. And these I would attach with the 1/4 inch pop dots. So you really don't need a lot of pop dots, maybe 3 for each one. You want to just place them on a couple of the big leaves. And this one can go here. And then you can add another one here, same way. And then using the flower with the 1/2 inch pop dot, that's going to go right there, like that. Now you can stop there if you only want one flower, or what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to trim this flower off, this leaf off, so I make 2. And this way I could position these wherever I want, really. So if I wanted to add a small one, I could do that. Or if I wanted to add a larger one, I could just have one more there and then add my final flower right about there, like that. So let me show you my finished card project, because I do have one where they're all pop dotted on. But you guys know how to use pop dots, so that will be an easy part for you. There's my finished card project, just blooming. If you wanted to add a 3rd flower up here, you certainly could. That would be pretty as well. You can also add additional leaves, or if you want, you could stamp flowers directly onto that turquoise background first, so it looks like there's some in the back. Now let me show you what this looks like when we turn down the no glare light so you can see all the shimmer. Look at all of this beautiful sparkle and shine on the leaves. You can see I added a little bit of Pitt pen to the leaves there and a little bit of Sakura Stardust pen to those as well, just to create a little bit more shimmer. Also, here on my finished card project, you can see I added a little touch of Pitt pen on the one side of each of these leaves and added a little bit of Sakura glitter. And that gives it a little bit of extra shimmer and shine on the leaves to match those blooms. Try this card with passionate pink and red hot flowers for a bolder look, or try using colors like warm cocoa or dark chocolate for a neutral palette.